Hey, one and all, it's your pal Drew. Some more comics, random comics for my spinner rack. I like to load up my spinner rack with like fun stuff, stuff that might be shoddy but memorable, and then I have stuff that I keep just for the art, and then some I keep just for the story. And this is one such story. This came out in, don't let the date fool you, it came out August of 1974. I'll just go over quickly, but Marvel and DC trying to outdo each other, jockeying for position on the racks. They jumped ahead like a month or two to make it as a deception to think like the newsstand dealer or the drugstore owner or the convenience store owner would keep these on the stands for 3 months, and it didn't last. I mean, it was just, they just knew. They didn't even know why that Marvel did that, and DC. But anyway, I was at 74. It was a very magical year for me. It's when I really, really was old enough to fully understand comics, and I started drawing. Like, I had no inclinations really of drawing when I was real little, but this just opened my eyes like nothing else. Just like any person, if you have a passion, something stirs something in you, it may not. My wife doesn't give two shits about comics, but that's not a problem. I mean, she's more into like geology and astrology and weather and stuff like that. She's really brilliant on that kind of stuff because her dad was a bomber pilot in World War II, and back then you had to know what the weather was going to be like. You didn't have the elaborate instruments that they have now. So, have I digressed enough? Okay. For Against Flood Tide, this just screamed to be picked up. I believe it's Ron Wilson with touch-ups by John Romita and probably inked by Frank Giacoia. Some of the stuff really looks Frank Giacoia to me. And this is a new cover because the original one, it's a reprint, by the way. I forgot to say that. I'm so out of shape. It's pitiful. These things are so heavy. I like them, but, Here's the original cover by Kirby and whoever. It's just not strong. It's like Cap is an incredibly he's in a non-dramatic pose, which is just astonishing. Because Kirby, usually even when Cap's just standing around, he gives him some great pose. So, I could sort of see where this wasn't, they wanted to do no cover for it. But anyway, let's get down to it. So I put this huge book down. I knew of Captain America from a cartoon, and when I was real little, the Marvel superheroes. And then Hawkeye, if I was an editor, anytime I would have, while Don Heck was alive, I would give him a monthly Hawkeye comic to do, even if he could only do, even if they needed backup strips from other people in case he had to slow down or whatever, because I just love the way he does Hawkeye. He designed the costume for one thing. Frank Giacoia on the inks is sweet because Don Heck, he inks himself very well in a lot of cases, but especially when he's doing non-superhero stuff, whether it's mystery or westerns or, all that stuff. But when it comes to superheroes, I like Frank Giacoia's sheen that he adds to it. So I must have read this a billion times between then the next 2 months when I was back up in Pittsburgh with my folks. What happened previous issue, Hawkeye got pissed off, as he was wont to do at the time, and he stormed out to parts unknown, and the rest of the team says, okay, well, we get this distress call from Janet Van Dyne, a.k.a. the Wasp, and let's go save her. And while Hawkeye is out and about, he's in like a socialite bar or something like that where women are like crawling all over him, and he's like, wow, what's that really beautiful ring you got? And he goes, well, it's a Avengers alarm, in case they need me. And he goes to hand it to a lady, and it gets dropped, and it damages it. So Hawkeye comes back, and he doesn't know it anymore, but he pieces things together. Nobody's there. So he says, the Avengers are off on a mission, and I can't follow them until I remember what number to dial on our secret new visit projector. So this thing's subliminal gizmo, a recall reminder. I think I could use one of those. Everybody could. So we found out, I've got it. The number has come to me. It's 1313. Work like a charm. Even then, I knew it was like the Munsters home address, 1313 Mockingbird Lane. So I love this so much. This is how I fell in love with Hawkeye, like really immediately. So, there he goes. Those big old. It is the Beetle who had fought both the Human Torch and Spider-Man on separate occasions, and he doesn't know why he's there yet. But it's Stan tells us. Long-time Marvelites will recognize our newly arrived arch-villain, but we'll keep our Johnny-come-latelys in suspense a while longer, as a lesson to them. Sly old Stan. And what's really cool is Hawkeye's just sort of like treating the Beetle as a nuisance. He's like, I got things to do, you know? It's like, so he goes and he finds the message that completes the coordinates and everything, latitude, longitude. Beetle gets his big old suction cups on him. Man, what a pose. Can I get a sharper look at that, guys? Okay. I'm talking to myself as guys. Yes, I'm multiple. And he throws a bolo arrow, hits him with a gas arrow, and he's like, hey, I got places to go. I don't have time to be your therapist. And I just love it. I was like, man, that was badass. So Cap and the lineup was only 4 people, and the other 3 were Scarlet Witch, Captain America, and Quicksilver. And Atum was beating the crap out of him because he's got super dense muscles for being under the water all those years. The pressure and such. So underwater was probably not a smart way to go when they were fighting Atuma. Although I think maybe he dragged him in the water. I don't remember. I had the previous issue. Scarlet Witch cracks the ceiling and it lets a lot of water in where they have this. They have machinery that requires oxygen, no water, to fritz it out. So, look at that whoosh. And I love all this stuff going on here. Quicksilver goes into this tube and it turns out to be a torpedo tube, but he's rescued by Hawkeye. Hawkeye to the rescue, guys. Hey, check it out. And boy, I love that. Oh, that is great. Boy, oh boy, I'm turning a little kid again. So Quicksilver, he ends up using the controls of their sub to swim every other boat that's down there, or sub, or something like that. Well, there's that Juma. Really great character. Hawkeye and Quicksilver does just bust on in. I loved this effect way back when. That is one of those Quicksilver really great panels. I just love his pose, and it just gives you impression. They really didn't do a lot with Quicksilver like they did with the Flash. I know he was a copy of Flash, but it's like, they could have done more. He got sucker punched way too many times for being a fast guy. And oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite panels where they're just tucked in. And back then the guys were all fighting still. So Quicksilver and Hawkeye are just kind of like a band of brothers. They're kind of like, well, it's been nice knowing you, Whitey. Whitey by the hair, not the. Because Hawkeye's a whitey too. Let's see. There, sorry about that. So they're kicking ass, getting the hell out of there. Love that. I love that. So stuff blows up. Beautiful. I would read issues over and over again because I didn't have many places in Florida at the time, and my grandma and grandpa's in Lakeland where I bought that. They didn't have a big spinner rack. They just had a book rack. Now this book is Coyote, which was the very second Epic imprint creator-owned book. The first one that came out the same year was Jim Starlin's Dreadstar, which lasted like 60-some issues, and the first 30 were with Epic Comics, and then it went over to First. I just had to get this because I like Steve Englehart and Steve Lee Aloha. I don't know a lot of his pencil work. I know he did, I know later that he did Spider-Woman, and I may have picked those up because I love his stuff. And his inks on Gene Colan, on Sal Buscema, and the Marvel team-up with Shang-Chi and, Black Widow. And I always saw him as quality, as a finisher. And this is his, the only solo stuff that I'm aware of when it comes to artwork. Now, Coyote's a really hard book to, it's a real hard book to explain, so I went to Wikipedia. Coyote's a trickster who masquerades as a mobster in Las Vegas. He's not a superhero per se. He's a human altered by magical upbringing, sun-split, mirage, and moonshadow magic. Not to be confused with the Moonshadow comic by J.M. DeMatteis and John J. Bluth, first published under the Marvel Comics Epic banner. Coyote's stronger than the average person. He's extra agile, can change his clothes and appearance to imitate others. The book purposely dodges all linear storytelling. This is me saying this now. I just wrote it for myself. Due to a variety of dream state imagery and otherworldly situations. And in a sense, Englehart, the writer, is also a trickster. This isn't a book where everything is laid out in the first issue. Coyote runs afoul of the Shadow Cabinet, a clandestine cartel who is wrangling over financial control over other cartels, the KGB and other shadowy mobs. And his personality is not typically aggro. He was a free spirit and relished messing with people out of curiosity. And he was a trickster. See, I'm almost done. But I had to write this out because I reread it and I couldn't wrap my mind around it. But Coyote first appeared in Eclipse magazine, and Englehart and Marshall Rogers did it. The magazine was I can't think what to say. Anyway, they got collected into a graphic novel, and then unfortunately for whatever reason, Stephen Lee Aloha couldn't work on the third issue. So fan favorite newbie Butch Guy supplied the art. Also did a backup in the issues called the Gin. I don't know how you say that. And then Coyote had the first published work of Todd McFarlane from Spider-Man, Chaz Truock, who with Grant Morrison made Animal Man a great character who was previously a joke. And the last issue had Mike Barron's creation, The Badger, and that was when intercompany team-ups were extremely rare, and especially if it's not Marvel or DC. So I'm sorry about all that, but because I cannot adequately talk, for one thing, I can't adequately describe the book. But hopefully that gets you... the credits are great here. But it says, Steve Englehart, writer, creator, artist Steve Lee Aloha, colorist Steve Lee Aloha, and Steve Olive. Letterer Steve Orzechowski, editor Steve Goodwin, associate editor Steve Duffy, consulting editor Steve Shooter. So, but yeah, I mean, you did have the three Steves that were working on this, so I just thought that's funny as shit. I still do. Man, I tell you, Lee Aloha Unleashed here, it really gives that mythological quality to it. It's just giving you a backup of Coyote. He's a coyote spirit who he's not necessarily a superhero. He's just like he likes to mess around on man's world. So love that effect. So it's like he can dance through time. It's like an interdimensional thing, but it's more I don't want to say operatic. It's more I can't quite describe it. It's just magic, it's just the magic swirls and stuff. He shows up and he calls roulette table. He hits it twice, hits it a third time, gets kicked out, and then he just kind of begins his dance, his spiritual dance. I just love his art. I love his faces and his storytelling choices. And then we go back to this. It's so good. See, that's why I needed the Wikipedia, because it's so elaborate. So much going on. And it's really, really enjoyable. I think it's great. But it really bummed me out that Lee Aloha couldn't do the third issue because right away, I mean, Butch was great. He was doing everything. Like I said, Micronauts. He was doing fill-ins on other stuff. But But the first two issues are great. I would like to see a collection of all of them. I don't know if they do, but they do have a collection of the anthology stories that Coyote appeared in. Maybe someday. So, okay, now we go to another inker / penciler that I love. Spider-Man was the adjectiveless Spider-Man book. Todd McFarlane he insisted on creating himself, so I guess he wanted the #1 royalties, and he got them in spades. Then he leaves a year and a half later, which is kind of a giant FU, but he was going to form Image, and I get that, but it was still like, this was just a book I ignored after a while because it just didn't really have I don't know, I felt a little burnt because some of the stories are great, they vary in quality, and I do like this kind of stuff, but from the very beginning, I would have liked it said, kind of like how Batman has Legends of the Dark Knight, which, has different creative teams, and it's a known situation. So, but that's just me. Maybe I'm just being crabby about it. But I love me some Klaus Janson. I love it. I even bought the Punisher, and it's like, I don't give a shit about the Punisher. I know I'm not anti-Punisher. It's just that I'm not, I like my superheroes. I'm a big weenie. Really cool stuff. And what's great is, just like Lee Aloha, the art is, 3. Klaus Janson has a verbal shorthand in his artwork. Like, you can tell what's going on, but some of it's implied. It's like, I can't remember if the term's impressionistic or expressionistic, but it's some kind of istic. Love that. Bold lines right there, and then thin ones. Here comes Spidery Man. Really great stuff. I love it. That's pretty funny. I can't believe Marvel kept the mustache of J. Jonah Jameson all those years, because nobody had worn them, to my recollection, that was famous. It was either Charlie Chaplin or that asshole in Germany in World War II. And it's like, I can't believe they didn't give him just a regular stash, and it only happened like in the 2000s. So here's Electro. He's feeling like a bum. He's feeling like he's ignored. And he's been through a lot. It's like, I'm not a nobody. Love that. See, like a deadline there, and then huge honking dark black lines away from the light source. And you don't see that a lot anymore. And with ink, you could really pull it off. I'd love to ink somebody and get away with that kind of stuff, but they want to have like a monoline art that's very average. Nice stuff there. Wow. Klaus Janson. I would love to meet him and just spend the day with him and pick his brain and just kiss his ass a lot, because he's a great inker, and I've always loved his stuff. He was the one who kept Daredevil published, I think, all through the 70s, because the sales kind of waxed and waned, but Klaus he inked a ton of Daredevil issues over a ton of different pencilers. Long list of books. I mean, they were really selling like crazy. They even had like the Marvel England stuff, like Wild Thing and all that. Oh yeah, and J.M. DeMatteis, I think, is the writer. How about that? Wow, that's creepy. And you could see, like, Dark Knight Returns, you see Klaus has a lot of input on that stuff, and then when Dark Knight 2 or all that stuff happened, it looked like pure shit. And I think for that kind of storytelling, Miller needed Janson more than Janson needed Miller. So badass, man. Long trench coats. This is way before, this is like 6 years before The Matrix. Like, that was like the thing at the time. Johnny Blaze had come back into the Ghost Rider storyline. He wasn't Ghost Rider, but a young guy named Daniel Ketch became Ghost Rider for like 80 some issues. But Johnny Blaze would show up, and he had one of these, and he always had a cigarette and always had shades on. So Nomad looks a lot like what Johnny Blaze did. The gimmick of this book, though, is not that he's a vigilante, like a freelance vigilante, if that's such a phrase. Is that there's like a novelty that should only last like 1 or 2 issues, but he took this little girl who was in danger, and I think she was orphaned, and he was gonna. This is before internet. This is before Uber. This is before he was trying to get across the country to get this baby girl over to the right place. And it's a girl, and he calls her nickname's Bucky. That's what he did. So check this out. There's a crazy expense going into this. Look at that. Oop, I gotta fold this back. So you got like a giant fold-out poster. And that is not cheap to produce. And there's the warning, which I think is really, really cool. And I'm like, wow. It's like they went all out, because you got the fancy covers that have the, they're shiny or embossed and such, but wow, that was a big treat if you were really into the book. I gave it a shot because I liked Nomad before. He was the 1950s Bucky when Steve Rogers was on ice. During the 50s, the government created a commie-smashing Captain America and Bucky. And what happened is they came to the present. Long story, Bucky, the 50s Bucky showed up in like issue 270 or something, interrupted Steve Rogers and Bernie Lowenthal's dinner. This is during the Jam DeMatteis and Mike Zeck / John Beatty era. So through this series, he has got the baby on the back there, and S. Clark Haberker, however you say his name, he's clearly a huge Neil Adams guy, and that's how a lot of people start. They either start with like Kirby or Neil Adams, and then they eventually evolve into other stuff. But he fights crime, but he always has, he has the baby on his back, and he's like he'll be doing flips and all this other stuff. Yeah, see, there's a bunch of poses that are swiped or close to swiped, but that's how like every single Neil Adams artist started. Neil Adams type. Okay, yada yada yada, blah 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 blah. There's Henry Gyrick, whatever, who's never had a good day in his life. So he's like swinging around with this baby on his back. It's like that would almost be acceptable for one issue, but it went on for a while, and it's just, geez, dude, this is child endangerment. You're gonna shake the baby, and cause all kinds of damage. It's just stupid. But it's a great idea for like one issue if he had to deliver a child to somebody else. So this guy's talking about statues, and out of nowhere comes a warlord statue. I don't know how that got past, legal or something, because comics were still selling very well back then. But sometimes you put a one-time panel in there, like there was before ROM has finally gotten reprinted by Marvel and Hasbro. Come on, man. There's this thing called a one-time use, and they had it in like a Marvel Masterworks where they show ROM Space Knight, but it's only one panel, so that's like a fair use. This is Neil Adams and his crew doing the ads. Which pays a lot more, trust me. Come on. So, yeah, it's very average, but I like it because it's so screwball. And makes a little sense, but who cares? Now, the Avengers. Oh my gosh, look at that Kirby cover. And I've said before, he never if it wasn't a book he was doing interiors on, he would insist on other people doing the layouts. So Maurice Severin may have done that, or Ed Hannigan, or somebody. But I mean, look at it. But you got him drawing Doctor Doom again, and Submariner. Jumping right in, Jerry Conway, George Perez, and Pablo Marcos. I just can't. I can't think of much better. I mean, George and Pablo did amazing. Oh, look at this storytelling here. It's like that, and then you get the opposite, where the bad guys are taking out the good guys, and all the time you're getting the flashback in here, and that is brilliant because. I mean, I'm not even talking about like a resale of pages, but it keeps you interested. But I mean, nowadays, it definitely make a lot more money with those kind of inserts, and they serve a purpose. So, there's Wonder Man. And I said in a previous episode, I kind of liked Wonder Man because he was a new guy who came back from the dead, and he was on the outside looking in. He was hanging out with the Avengers, trying to learn or adjust to a superhero type living because he was a one-time villain. And as a fanboy, I looked through his eyes. Like I felt like I was a new guy on the team. I kind of Conway really made him in Jim Shooter, made him relatable. Like he actually he just questioned a lot more things that the rest of the Avengers just took for granted because they'd gone through so much crazy shit. And they get free. That is an incredible Submariner page. Oh, hang on, hold it sturdy because it's that good. Wow, baby. And he put nipples on Submariner. I think he's the first one who's done that in the Bronze Age. It wasn't very much a thing. For some reason, nipples, they may have been a bad thing in the during the 1950s witch hunts of comic books. But, nobody questioned it. I love the cross-hatching as the shade. Actually, it's just pen marks, like rapidograph pen marks. And I copied that for a long time. But, an oil well, it's just like Perez could draw anything. And he was a young guy. He just had this gift. And he could do intensely detailed panels, but you don't lose what's going on. It makes everything possible. There's the Wizard and the Beast. There we go. Here we go. I'm like, yeah, Wonder Man, kick his friggin' ass. Oh, okay. That was a Marvel No Prize because in a previous issue showed Wanda flying to some destination for a clue, and somebody says, when does Scarlet Witch ever fly? Or when did she ever fly? So they were kind of like, we screwed up at the bullpen. Really great stuff going on. Wonder Man's just like bashes through, and here comes a Submariner. And easily deceived. He was a hothead, not always written properly, but he points to the good guys and goes, come, my friends, our common enemy draws near. So Atum has found new allies. 2 costumed humans and a big talking ape. Bam. And here comes. I hated him for so long because I hadn't really read the Bill Everett event, Namor stuff at the time, and for what I knew at the time, he was just this dick who'd show up with a short temper that could be triggered by anything, like a sneeze. So. I really cherished Wonder Man knocking the shit out of him. The new kid on the block. Boom. And, the Wizard and Submariner both were on the all-winter squad in post-war, around 46 or so. But he can't tell what the movement. I see more as a blur. You're not Quicksilver. In the meantime, my man Wonder Man, he just pulls that column out. I know you. You're Robert Frank, the Wizard from the Liberty Legion. Give the man a cigar. If you're not Quicksilver, not a renegade, then why? Boom. Boom. sorry, was it right or wrong? I'm not taking any chances. Neymar goes down now. And I was like, effing yeah, man. Effing yeah. Put that guy in his place. He's a pain in the ass. Who's easily deceived. So, but I like Neymar more now. It was just at the time he was portrayed as relentlessly angry and offended by every little thing. So, I'm running longer than I expected. I think the Coyote explanation held up for like 10 minutes. But anyway, hope you dug this. And please leave comments below. Hit like and subscribe and share. If you've got a fellow fanboy like me and you think they might like this, please point them my way or share the link. And leave comments below, as many comments as you want, your opinions on how Gary Conway took over the Avengers. He basically snagged him away from Steve Englehart in the middle of a storyline around issue 151, or talk about your first Perez comic, or where were you when you bought this, and what was your thinking? Because I love to hear that kind of stuff. So. I want this to be like I hate to say community. That's such a cornball term. But, hey, and I don't delete anything. I don't get into a pissing match with anybody. It's just that we're all here for the love of comics. Finally, I really want to thank each and every one of you for watching, because there's so many other entertainment outlets out there and everywhere. I mean, there's movies, there's TV, there's other stuff, and you decided to spend a half hour watching my show, and that I don't take that for granted. I really, really appreciate it. And that's it, guys and gals. Talk to you later.